Between 2022 and 2023, two big nations in Africa took a very decisive step. One in the eastern part of Africa and the other the western part of Africa. Now we are going to be looking at these two nations and the decision that they have taken within these 2 years and how it's affecting them positively or negatively. If you stay with me, we're going to analyzing two heavy political movements, the hustlers and the obedient. In 2022, the hustlers produced William Rutos, while in 2023, the INEC in Nigeria disobeyed the obedience. And this is the reason why Batifile has been able to find himself in Aso Rock, and the country has been in economic turmoil for more than a year now. And they have still been unable to find the bearing to this turmoil that they have found themselves. The captains are not being able to find the solution, neither have the pilots have any solution to the constant turbulence that he continued to encounter while flying the company called Nigeria. So down to the issue is the protest in Kenya. So I will be bringing to your knowledge about what is going on in Kenya instead of it happening in Nigeria. Now, the Kenyan people, according to AP, they said the Kenyan president came to power by applying to the common people, describing himself as a hustler. Remember I said earlier, the hustling group, which is more like obedient group in Nigeria, was the one who produced William Rutos because he was able to associate himself with these commoners. Remember, for any political party to be able to strive, they find a way to engage themselves with the commoners and people who can buy their ideology. That which Rutos William did in 2022, and he was able to win the election. There have been some unrest in the East African most stable democracy and the most serious assault on Kenyan government in decades. And this is as a result of what you are going to be hearing next. There was a financial bill that was meant to raise and introduce tax or fuel on the range of daily items and services, including internet data, fuel, bank transfer, and diapers. The proposals are part of the Kenyan government's effort to raise an extra $2.7 billion in domestic revenue. The government says the challenges or the changes are necessary to pay interest on national debts, reducing the budget deficits and keep the government running. Protesters sees them as punitive since the high cost of living already make it hard to get by. Now, we all understand that something is happening in Nigeria. And before we even talk further, there was a loan that was granted to the Kenyan government. The International Monetary Fund granted the Kenyan government a new loan of about $941 million. The finances of the cash-strapped Eastern African nation, Kenya is gripped with a high cost of economic challenges, including a vast debt mountain, cost of living crisis, and tumbling currency. This was on the 18th of June 2024. So it's just within the last 1-2 weeks. And the protests continue to run, around the capital of Kenya, Nairobi. Now, a youth-led protest in Kenya has been organized on social media, organizing peaceful street demonstration meant to force authority to drop this financial bill altogether. The protest started on June 18 after the bill was made public for the first time. Remember, I just talked about a loan granted to Kenya, and it was on the 18th of June 2024. Now there was a financial bill to increase the tax in Kenya. Let's go further. The protests began in Nairobi but have spread to other parts of Kenya. So the president was elected in 2022, which I have talked about already. The Kenyan people are now seeing him as Zankayo, which is nickname, referred to the Zacchaeus in the Bible, who was a tax collector. Now, in 2023, after the courts blocked some of his tax proposal, the president threatened to disregard court order. That drew criticism from the Law Society of Kenya, whose leaders accused Ruto of seeing himself as above the law. What about the common man, who are being cheated and all of that? Ruto, in his presidential campaign, called himself the anti-establishment candidate and vowed to implement policies to put more money in Kenyans' pocket. But the so-called hustler who supported him were dismayed when his government removed critical fuel and maize flour subsidy, I beg your pardon. Many Kenyans saw it as a betrayal. Now, Ruto continued to tell the Kenyan people to tighten their belts, but his state visit to the United States was criticized. Why? Because of the controversy that surrounded his luxurious private jets instead of using the presidential jet or the Kenyan national carrier. But according to the president, he said that the charter jets had been paid for by his friends, of which he didn't mention. So we'll not be looking at this now. Let's compare it with Nigeria. In 2023, we had the obident movement. This movement started in 2022, just similar to what happened in Kenya, where we have the hustle. And many people who were familiar with what happened in Kenya tends to believe that this obedient movement may bring about a change in Nigeria, just like it did, the hustling movement did in Kenya. And fast forward to 2023 general election, it happens that the Independent National Electoral Commission disobeyed the obedient movement and decided to go for Batify. According to them, they said Bat won the election, contrary to public opinion. Now, let's look at the decisions being made by the Bat government since he came on board as the president of Nigeria in 2023. He went ahead to remove the fuel subsidy on the 29th of May 2023, which is the root cause of the economic hardship bestowed upon Nigerians today. Constantly from that day to today, Bat has been telling Nigerians to tighten up their seat, tighten up their belts, because he has inflicted a lot of economic crisis. So people are losing weight and he's telling them to tighten up, while he is flying around with his friends and enjoying himself with his family and all of that, budgeting over 5 billion naira for vehicles for his wife and the office of his wife and all of that, which is not constitutional. We have seen them spend billions of naira renovating a house for the VP, 90 billion for Hajj, and all kind of money that is not necessary when the people are suffering. Now, we saw tax being increased within the last 1 year. And we saw the country also, going into serious debt, of which within the last 3 months, it has been reported that Nigeria has borrowed approximately almost 20 trillion naira. The debt rate of Nigeria below 100 trillion, but as we speak is above 100 trillion today. So when you look at this, all this bow down to the advice given to them by the IMF, telling them that remove fuel subsidy, do this, increase tax and all of that. Now, they have been able to do all of this, and then they are now pushing people into more poverty. The same thing is being replicated there in Kenya. But the difference between these two nations, one in east, one in south, in west, is that the eastern part of the continent, the people there are resisting what the government is doing. Now, they went ahead to pass the bill, the financial bill yesterday, Tuesday, of which the Kenyan people stormed the parliament destroy some of the properties, just like you can see on the screen. And you know, it's a wide protest already in Kenya. 2 persons have been reportedly dead, many has been injured, of which I'll be talking about subsequently as to how we handle democratic, peaceful protests in Africa, Nigeria, now Kenya to be precise. And when you look at that and look at what is happening in Nigeria, I don't believe that the Kenyan people have tested half of what Nigerians are facing. But they are on the street already. But here in Nigeria, we are so patient and we are trying to adjust to life. Does it really make any sense? If you ask me, no. But you know, anyone that talks about protests ends up in DSS custody. So my hands are clean. I don't want to be part of that for now. So, but the truth of the matter is that Nigerians need to wake up, just like other African countries. When the government is trying to take decisions, policies that are unfriendly to human race, all you need to do is to say no in a peaceful manner. And I believe that was what was going on in Kenya until the police officers decided to use live ammunition. And I even learned that a police officer lost his 2M because he was trying to throw tear gas on the peaceful protesters. Now, people are protesting, they're not being violent, they're not killing anybody and all of that. And then you begin to open fire and all of that on them. It doesn't make any sense. I believe that in a democratic setting, when people say no to some certain policy, you engage them. You try to talk to them. And if they don't listen, then it means that what you are trying to do is a no-no to them. And you have to bend. But then, in this part of the world, so far, there's one young white guy sitting in one room over there in Europe or America have pressed their move button. The next thing you see is that they will just send police soldiers to the streets to make sure that that policy is being implemented to favor their paymasters, which doesn't make any sense at all. Now, what do you make of all of this? Looking at what is going on in Kenya and what is happening in Nigeria. But I leave you with this. Just like people are saying, he should resign. So either bend to their decision or he leaves the office. Thank you for watching.